Hello, listeners. Jordan here. I just want to let you know that you can listen to Nighttime early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Include it with Prime.
You are listening to the Nighttime Podcast.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to another installment of Nighttime's listener-contributed Encounters with Creeps series. If you're new to this series, my name is Jordan, and a few years back, I asked you, the listeners of Nighttime, to share with me your personal experiences with unsettling, eerie, and downright creepy people. And let's just say, ever since, my inbox has been a never-ending roller coaster of bizarre and chilling stories. And I've been doing my best to bounce those stories back at you. And that's what we're going to do here tonight. Tonight I'm going to bring you the 24th volume of real-life stories that'll leave you double-checking your lock and questioning every social interaction. Joining me for this episode is series co-host Madelayne Klein, and joining us, we're going to have a special guest, fellow Canadian podcaster and host of Dark Topic, Mr. Jack Luna. Together, the three of us are going to unravel stories of a creep who loves dogs, a creep with a listener's ponytail in their mouth, and a creep who may actually have been a ghost. So settle in, keep a light or two on, and welcome to Volume 24 of Encounters with Creeps. Ms. Madelayne Klein, it is time for Volume 24 of Creep Encounters.
24.
And this is an extra special one. I don't want to delay it or bury the lead. Let's get right into it. We have a special guest, Madelayne Klein. We talked a lot about creeps on the show, what they do, how they think. We talk about them. Tonight, I think we may get to talk to one. From Dark Topic, Mr. Jack Luna. How you doing down there, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good, Jordan.
You're the good kind of creep, though. You're the kind of memorable creep that leaves you not with a feeling of dirty and wrong, but a feeling of, what the fuck was that all about? You're one of those ones.
Oh, that's high praise. Thank you, Jordan. I try to disarm people, I think, with that. And, it gets me into some interesting conversations with interesting people. But no, at my base, I'm a family guy, and I try to do good in the world. I mean, these days, at least.
These days, you got a lot to make up for, right?
I do. I do.
Introduce yourself, Jack. For people who haven't heard you on the show before, we've done a few episodes together, but it's been a long time. What are you up to? You have Dark Topic, which is your solo hosted show that's absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
What else are you up to?
I have another podcast called Marooned, where myself and Aaron Habel of Generation Y podcast covers stories of people in survival situations, and it's so funny working with a guy who's been so successful as Aaron Habel, watching him go through a process with me where it's like we have this indie podcast nobody really knows about, and we're doing it for the love of the game, really. It's been a lot of fun, too.
Well, we're not here to talk about podcasts. We're here to talk about creeps. Madelayne, why don't you introduce the series so Jack knows what he's getting into before we start rolling these calls? What are we doing here?
So we are just listening to listener-led creep encounters, so whether it's a stranger or a random creep at work, or it's so broad, and that's what I love about this series. It's anyone and everyone.
Yeah, and it's trauma, the stories of trauma, but trauma with a lowercase t. That's kind of how we describe it. So it doesn't get too far, but it does tiptoe across the edge every so often.
We flirt with the line. Sometimes it's like, that's illegal. That's harassment, or like
and this was never supposed to be something that gets to volume 24. This was something we just did one or two episodes back in the day, and it's like, if I check my email in the morning, and if I have 4 emails, 2 of them are people telling me about the creeps they met at the bus stop or the freak that they work with. So it's just like, this thing has a life of its own, and we're just along for the ride. And Jack Luna, you're along for the ride with us. I want to start with this, though. We've asked, I think on a prior episode, Madelayne, we said, how often, listeners, would you like to hear Encounters with Creeps? We have a listener who's providing an answer to that question.
I always listen to your Creep Encounters, and you guys said to say how many you should do. I think definitely more. They're absolutely my favorite. Love you guys.
It's pretty simple. More. Not very helpful.
I also feel like we haven't done one of these in a while. So
We've generally been doing one a month. This listener suggests more. I don't know. I would have horrible nightmares if I stayed up every night with you, with the two of you talking about the creep stories from all over the world. So I will accept more. More will likely mean one a month. But let's get into it. The way we started here is often looking at a high profile, in the news, real deal creep. And the story we'll start with comes from a listener as well. I got an email that said, "Hey Jordan, I just finished Encounters with Creeps Volume 23, and I heard Madelayne call out for some Airbnb related stories. I'll send you a personal Airbnb experience through the voice recorder at some point, but I found it to be a funny coincidence that I heard your call out the same day that this news article popped up on my feed." I'm going to read you this article. Before I do, though, do you both know about the OnlyFans porn star type person who slept with 101 men in a day?
yeah, I've seen it like on my Instagram. She's
Okay, is Jack playing dumb down there?
No, I'm not. I was thinking, man, I would love to know about that.
Okay, well, here's how it connects to Encounters with Creeps and with Airbnbs. I'll read you a short article. An unsuspecting Airbnb host in London's Notting Hill got the shock of a lifetime after learning that their luxury rental was used for an extreme stunt without their knowledge. Lily Phillips, a 23-year-old, booked the $1.9 million apartment in October, secretly turning into the setting for a sex marathon involving 101 men, which she live streamed to the OnlyFans platform.
She screamed it too. She screamed it. I
either
think.
would work.
The Airbnb host initially left the adult performer a positive review, unaware of what occurred in the home. "We had no idea," she later admitted. The event not only violated Airbnb's ban on adult content, but also exceeded the booking's guest limit by over 100 people. Despite facing a potential ban from Airbnb, Phillips stated she's planning an even more extreme stunt, 1,000 men in a day. And this incident will go on to serve as a creepy reminder of what can unfold behind closed doors.
My God.
So if you
My God.
you have an Airbnb and people are coming to your house, who knows what's going to happen? But I think the cautionary side of this is when you go to an Airbnb place, or a hotel, don't trust those sheets. I sleep on top of them.
Yeah, bring your own blanket. And a lot of people have the problem with the cleaning fee that comes with an Airbnb, but in this case, I think it's completely justified.
They earned every cent of that.
I don't know. She didn't know until it went viral. So like she did a good job at cleanup, I guess. Maybe she did the checklist that they left. Who knows?
Yeah, and like it said in that little thing I read there, she even got a positive review. The host, I don't remember the exact words, but it was like, communication was great. They did a great job cleaning up. None of the neighbors realized this happened, apparently, because when this became a big news story and they found out where the location was, the media even went like kind of knocking on neighbors' doors. Like, do you know about what happened, next door in this rich neighborhood with all these 101 guys? No one had any idea.
Wow. What a world.
What a world. But yeah, that all came from Madelayne's call out for Airbnb stories. And we do have a few. I think we may have one tonight, but if we don't air it tonight, we do have some in the archive. But we got a bunch of stories and they're great ones. We generally will break them into themes. One theme that seems to exist on every show we do on Encounters with Creeps is simply random encounters. That'll be a segment. And that is ones where you're just out in the wild, in the field, and come across a creep. We're going to have some work-related creeps.
Always.
And then we're going to have creeps that I'm just going to call WTF creeps. And they are just two unhinged maniacs that we will end the show with tonight. Let's start with the random encounters, just because this is a great way to set the scene. Madelayne, I'll let you choose the first story. Do you want to hear about a creep at a bus stop? Or would you like to hear about Camille the hairdresser's unhappy ending?
Oh, give me the hairdresser.
Okay. This could also be a work-related creep. I suck at these themes.
You're doing well.
Here we go.
Hi, Jordan and Madelayne. I am just listening to your volume 20 of Encounters with Creeps, and I figured I should probably share a story. I was working in Calgary in a little bit of the seedier area in a mall. I worked in a little bit of the higher end salon. I'm a hairstylist. This particular day, my manager decided that we were going to do some complimentary value-added services for people walking by. And I happened to have a break because someone decided that they didn't need their appointment, so they just didn't show up. And this is one of the only people that I was very upset about this one because it led to this encounter. A gentleman came in and he had asked for a neck and shoulder massage as from the drop down menu of like, pick what you want. So my manager's like, oh, take him back. So I took him back to my station and I start to give him a massage, and he starts doing the moaning. And I don't know if you have any other hairstylist friends or anything, but there is nothing worse than someone moaning while you are either shampooing their hair or doing their massage and stuff. You're just like, oh God. The only thing that makes it worse is when they make eye contact with you while they do it. Yeah, it's a good time. But so I'm massaging his neck, and we're supposed to make it a 5-minute thing. By minute 3, I'm out. I can't touch this man anymore. I am absolutely terrified from the noises coming out of him. So I'm like, oh, like, here, we're done. Like, let's head out. And he stands up, and there is a wet stain on the front of his pants. When I tell you, I could not finish that workday. I had to go home. I left a $400 appointment and said, I can't do this. I will reschedule for next week. We are not doing this today. It's quite terrifying. My manager never pushed me to do any more of those complimentary value add services for strange people in the mall anymore. And I'm very grateful that I don't work there anymore. So I hope you enjoy my creep encounter, or rather never have to encounter that. But have a great day. Bye.
The OnlyFans with the 101 partners was kind of a good segue into this, but oh man, that's an awful story. I've always thought it was weird when you get your hair cut and they like shampoo your hair and it turns into a massage. I feel really awkward when that happens, but fortunately I don't have a lot of hair.
I love when that happens.
I like it, but it's weird, especially if it's like a woman doing it to my hair or something into my head. I've never had them go down to my neck though, like they did in this case.
No, that's weird.
And I certainly wouldn't moan or make eye contact with them. Good God.
I thought it was just a real testament to how good she was at massages that the guy was so relaxed that he peed himself.
Oh, innocent Jack.
Right? Or was it a sticky situation?
Oh, okay. This in this experience here, and I don't understand like the salon and hairdressing and all that, but am I to understand she wasn't even paid for this? They were just like they were slow, so the manager's like, yeah, just offer some free services. And someone came up and was like, I'll have a massage, and got off on it.
That struck me as weird too. The way she said that he said, yeah, go ahead, take him into the back. And the guy's like, right on, I'm at the right place. Yeah, that sounds like the right language. Yeah, for this situation.
Like, it's bad all around, but if that was for free, what are you doing giving away free anything?
Well, it's just like a sample. Like when I walk through the mall, well, it's like their service or whatever. When you walk through the mall, there's often someone, you know, the store Lush. One of my favorite things to do is to go into Lush and get them to wash my hands.
What?
Ever since COVID, I'm weird about my hands.
Oh my God. You make them wash your hands? I don't do that.
There's going to be a Lush employee calling in soon.
Well, it isn't me who started it. My youngest kid went in there once with my mom, and they washed his hands and gave him samples, and he loved it. And every time we go to the mall, he's like, "Oh, can we go wash our hands at Lush?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Oh my God, that's one of the creepier things that I've ever heard, honestly.
Okay, but like I can see how that would actually feel really good because there's nothing like a good hand massage.
Especially when they don't touch your hands. Oh, when I say that wash your hands there, I wash my own hands with their samples. They'll be like, here's this new, Wicked the movie Jello body soap stuff. And they got like a little sink there, and you can grab some and test it out. And they try to sell it to you, but they're not washing my hands.
I thought they were washing.
Me too. Me too.
And I'm just moaning, like, staring them in the eyes.
Yeah. Or like they don't see you there at first, but you're just standing there with like your hands, Mr. Burns style, like waiting in the sink. Anybody? Little service
clicking
over
my
here.
Fingers.
I'm here for my free hand wash.
Oh, yeah. But in this story, Madelayne, you've probably had experiences like this where you got to get close to somebody, to a stranger who's feeling a little weird about it. But I guess, well, you've never had like hands-on job. You've been a bartender. You were never
Yeah,
touching people.
thankfully, no. I'm trying to think. Like I've
I just
worked in
think,
healthcare, but thankfully, like anytime I had to touch someone, no one was creepy about it.
okay, well, get ready because we have a healthcare story on our way. But one thing, Jacqueline, Madelayne and I are now pros at this because so many of the stories after 24 volumes, we're starting to find some trends.
Right.
And one trend is that creepy guys will overstep every single situation. If the waitress has to be nice to you, they will propose.
Yep.
If the salon hairdresser has to touch you, they will
Mhm.
ejaculate in their pants.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know if it's the human condition, but it seems very, very common after, again, 24 volumes.
Yeah, I can see.
Let's get to the next one. This one we'll call Carol Ann's Creep at a Bus Stop. This will be our public transit segment. Here it comes.
Nice.
Hi, Jordan. This is Carol Ann calling from Grimsby in southern Ontario. I have spent the past 3 months binging the entire podcast. I'm in April 2023 right now. Absolutely love it. The one poor woman who triggered this memory for me was at the bus stop and a man groped her. It reminded me of my own encounter when I was a student. I went to the University of Ottawa and I was waiting for my bus on Rideau Street to go see my then boyfriend, now husband. I was waiting at my bus stop in the shelter because it was snowing that night, and a homeless man came and was waiting at the door to the shelter. And I immediately got my hackles up. I didn't care that he was homeless. I lived down the street from the homeless shelter. I was in nursing school. All people from all walks of life are a-okay with me, but he was completely blocking my way out, so I immediately got really nervous. He kind of smiled at me and said, "Oh, you're really pretty." I said, "Oh, okay, thanks." I'm this 20-year-old who doesn't know how to stand up for myself. He asked me if I had a boyfriend, and I said, "Yes, I'm actually waiting to go see him." And he said, "Well, could I be your boyfriend instead?" And I kind of awkwardly chuckled and said, "No, thanks. I'm good, but you take care. You have a good night." He walks in closer and kind of corners me in the corner of the bus shelter. And then he leans in real close and gives the biggest sniff of my hair and then kind of whispers in my ear, "You smell really nice." And I, again, awkwardly chuckled and I kind of backed away and did this awkward tuck and roll and said, "Okay, thank you. You have a nice night now." And I waited outside the shelter. Thankfully, my bus was only just 5 minutes away. But yeah, it was super creepy. That actually, speaking of transit, that reminds me of another time. I was on the subway in Toronto and I felt something pulling on the back of my hair. And I turned around and this man had the end of my ponytail and he was sucking on it. So thank you so much for listening to my creepy story. I love the podcast. Love you and Aaron and Madelayne's stories. They're fantastic. Keep up the great work. Have a good night.
We've had quite a few bus stop stories, but I think this is the first, and we've had quite a few smelling somebody stories, but I think this is the first like ponytail and hair stories,
And
but this is
hair
the first
stories.
ponytail in the mouth story.
Oh, that makes me gag.
That is just so
like just the
gross.
hair in the mouth makes me gag a little bit.
Well, and then it would be wet with
Oh, what would you do? I guess
bacterial
as the
saliva.
victim of that creep encounter with your hair having been like,
I'd be throwing
yeah,
cans.
he would get decked, but you would have to
Like, I'd
hold your
start a
hair
fight.
off your back until you got home and washed it because you wouldn't want like this creep saliva like on your neck or anything, right?
I thought you were gonna say you had to wring it out.
Oh,
Like,
maybe. Imagine he has it in his mouth and he's just drooling all over like it's a monster on the subway in Ottawa or Toronto.
I don't know why I don't know why I thought you would say that because you like to keep your hands very clean from what we've learned. Yeah.
What about the bus stop story, Madelayne? Some guy gets he first, "You want to be my girlfriend?" You say no, and then his way of trying to convince you is coming right over and you smell good.
See, it's such a shame that these guys target young women that don't know how to stand up for themselves yet. Because,
Mhm.
like, and I'm sure when
Right.
I was 20, I would have probably done what she did. But like, if something like that were to happen to me now, I'd be like, get
Oh yeah.
no, you're making me
Yeah,
uncomfortable. Like,
it's with age and experience comes confidence. And when you're like 19, 20, whatever, and you're in the bus stop at night alone, you're probably a little meek and just, oh, I don't want to upset anybody. I just got, and that's it just makes you the perfect prey for these kind of weirdos. Where again, at 30, old and jaded, you're ready to just kill or be killed in the bus stop because someone looked at you the wrong way.
but in that same breath, a reason that lots of women aren't mean is because, like, if he gets angry, he could kill you. And it's
Right.
Mm,
happened.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's a
yeah.
good point. Are you saying we should normalize mace and pepper spray?
Yeah. Yeah, we could. How about
Okay.
normalize
I agree.
not talking to random people? Like,
Hmm.
unless it's quite
Yeah.
clear that they want you to come talk to them. No.
There should be a hand gesture. Like, we have a hand gesture for hi, one for peace, like the middle finger for FU. There should be one for like,
Approach.
is this okay for me to approach?
Ugh.
And then they would do it back, and then you'd be like, how's it going?
Mm.
And if they don't, you're not allowed it to be against the law for you to approach them if they don't respond to your can I approach hand gesture.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame that there wasn't like society wasn't just like always one big traffic stop party. Have you ever been to those?
I have no idea.
It's called a traffic stop party where if you wear green, it means you're single, and then if you wear red, it means you're taken. Then if you wear yellow, it means proceed with caution.
Well, we kind of had that. My thought is if I have my hood up and my head down, don't approach me.
Yeah.
Right?
Don't talk to me.
That means don't talk to me.
Yeah, and if I'm young and alone at a bus stop at night, don't like come up and smell my hair and ask me where I'm going.
And like especially if headphones are in, like I definitely don't want to talk to you then. How dare you?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jack, I
Uh-huh.
don't think you're the type that gets approached a lot. You got a lot of random people being like, "Hey, buddy,
That was
No.
rude.
Madelayne, would you go up and ask him something?"
At a bar,
They
I'd ask you for
don't.
a cigarette.
Ah, fucking
Yeah,
right. Or
you
sorry.
got one, right? But where do I get some blow,
Yeah.
buddy?
Yeah. Yeah, in my pocket. No, like when this reminded me of a quick story. I actually got robbed at a bus station when I was 22 years old by a homeless guy in the funniest way, actually. He asked me for some change, and I pulled my wallet out of my pocket to give him a couple of toonies and loonies or whatever I had on me, but I had some bills in there. He
Oh,
knocked
okay.
he knocked the wallet out of my hands, went down, grabbed it quick, pulled the money, and threw my wallet into the street. So I
Oh,
had to go get the wallet, and then I had to chase him down. But I
And
never caught him.
oh,
He was fast. He ran into a park where I knew that there was a bunch of homeless people there, where I may have gotten jumped. So I did.
yeah.
I got robbed by a homeless guy in Oshawa, Ontario, home of the brave.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm.
prepare to
Well,
be
that
me.
happens. The mistake there was pulling out your
It
wallet, but you're
was.
being a nice guy, and this guy also was probably experienced. If he thought
Yeah,
to throw your
yeah.
wallet into the street, that's a bit of a distraction kind of move.
yeah, exactly. He'd
'Cause you-
done it before. I mean, I thought it was a great move. Honestly, I had to respect
oh,
it. I
yeah, it's
thought
a
it was
good.
great.
Well, that buys him, even 30 seconds to get you to just look in the other direction and grab your wallet, which you're going to want to do. Losing your wallet would be the worst thing on
Yeah.
earth. Eh?
Yeah, no, totally. No, the wallet. I needed to get it. I needed it.
Okay. Let's take a quick ad break. When we get back, we're going to hear 3 stories of work-related creeps, and we're going to continue to ramp this up till we get to our climax, like the man getting the neck rub, which for us will be some stories of WTF creeps.
All right, I'll change my pants.
Jack, I don't know much about your job history. I know you work now in storytelling, podcasting. What's your background as far as work? What did you do before this?
I was a social worker. I worked in group homes with disabled kids. So crown wards of CAS, the Children's Aid Society, who not only had a disability but also have been abused in some sort of way. So like really difficult to deal with kids. So I was the assistant manager of a group home for 10 years. And then I came out to Manitoba, was a gas station jockey for a bit, and found podcasting. And now I do podcasting full time. But yeah, I was a
Wow. What
social worker, basically.
what a weird career path. But you know what? When like for someone who listens to your show, that actually kind of makes sense.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Um,
insights there. You know,
yeah.
when I was a kid, I wanted to be a writer. And the advice I got from my dad was you got to get out in the world and get some experience so that you have something to write about. And it did give me a lot of insight and things about the human condition that serve me well now that I write for a living.
And I bet you learn a lot at working at a gas station too.
That too,
Damn.
people as well. Yeah, yeah.
Since you mentioned like something bordering on social work, I got a story for us here. This one I'm going to call Amy's counselor convention was infiltrated by a creep. So this one, I don't know what kind of counselor she is, but here it comes. Here's Amy's story.
Hi, Jordan. It's Amy. I'm a big fan of your show. I'm originally from Nova Scotia, but I live in northern Canada now. So I just wanted to call in with a experience with, I would say, a super creep. So a few years ago, I was a counseling student, and I was invited to go to the counseling conference for the whole territory. So we stayed at a hotel. The conference was at the same hotel. Anyways, first day was fine. Second day, as I was leaving, a big group of us were all leaving the conference at the same time, and this guy sort of came in with the group, and we all got in the elevator, and he started chatting to me, saying he was a counselor, he worked for the counseling program. All seemed innocent enough. And then I got off the elevator, and this guy, still talking to me, was kind of walking with me. And as a woman, that usually feels a little bit strange when you're walking in a hotel. So he kept talking. I stopped talking. I tried to walk ahead. And anyway, I went up to my door. He followed me up to the door and just stood there at my door waiting. And I thought, what in the world is going on? What is this guy thinking is going to happen? I, anyway, paused, felt like a long pause, but I just said, get out of here. Anyway, he looked startled. He kind of took off. I thought, what is going on? Such a strange thing. I felt, pretty unsafe because I wasn't sure what he was thinking, what his intention was. Anyway, kind of shook it off, went on with my night. Next day, I went in to the counseling conference again. And as I went in to the main room, I heard some other people talking about this creepy guy who had followed them. And one of them said he had actually grabbed them or touched them in some way. So I went over to the managers of this counseling conference and I told them what happened with me. And they said, yes, apparently this guy, after my encounter, went over to one of the other supervisors, followed her, and she had a confrontation with him, and he did it to someone else. And next thing I know, there's an announcement in the conference warning about this guy who was posing as a counselor, as one of the counseling team members, but he actually had nothing to do with the conference. And it was all a facade, which is super creepy and thought out and weird. So I ended up having to talk with also the hotel staff, who then were looking at video cameras and they were banning him from the hotel. And anyway, it was quite the ordeal as a counseling student to have to go through such a strange encounter. But I just thought you guys might appreciate the nature of this creepy story. Thanks.
I don't know if I appreciate the nature of that creepy story. What is this guy up to? Or does he just show up at any convention and is like, yeah, I'm a member of, whatever this convention's about. I'm going to try to follow you to your room and see what happens.
Yeah, she nailed it there when she said that the thinking out of it, the preparation that comes with it. It's one thing to be accosted by a creep that's just doing it on the fly, but another thing to have someone who's developed an identity in order to be able to get at you. That's very creepy.
I went down this rabbit hole on YouTube over the last 6 months or so, and in the US, it seems like it's easy to get access to body cam footage from cops. And there's this whole genre of body cam footage videos on YouTube that are specifically cops arresting people pretending to be cops.
Nice.
And you would think it would be a rare thing, but it's a huge, it's constant that people are, maybe they're like a security guard and they're taking the job over the line and bordering on pretending to be law enforcement, or maybe they're just some freak who's like role playing at the nearby shopping mall pretending to be a cop in their car that has the lights that they bought off of Timu or something like that. But that's kind of what I thought about with this guy. It's like but being a, let's say, pretending to be a cop, that would give you a bit more power over a member of the public. But to pretend to be a counselor is kind of odd. It gets you into the convention, but it doesn't really get you alone with a victim.
See, my question
No.
is, let's say, and we don't know what his intentions are. Maybe he's not looking for anything long term, but let's say this approach works and he reels a woman in. At what point are you like, oh, by the way, like I'm actually not a counselor. I'm a nobody.
Right.
Like,
I don't think he'd admit that. I think he would want, like, maybe he just wanted to have a wild romp at the convention.
well, it's got to be short term because it like long term just isn't feasible.
I don't think he's there looking for a long-term partner. No. I didn't get that impression at all.
You never
but
know
I
what could
wonder if
happen.
there's this moment. It's true. How did you meet? It's a long story.
Right.
But in this case, like it would be a challenge where if you're there pretending to be a counselor, even if it's other counseling students, and one of them takes you up on your offer, I guess you're standing awkwardly in front of her hotel room door, and she's like, "Yeah, come on in. Like you look handsome, I guess, and you've been following me, so you seem all right." Anyway, at some point throughout that exchange, when he gets in her room, if that is his goal, you would think just like the trade of counseling in some capacity would come up, and he wouldn't be able to say anything about it. Like, I don't know
Right.
anything about counseling. If she passed me a paper and she's like, "Before we do this, just spell counselor," I'd be like,
Yeah.
"Damn it."
COUNSELLOR, right?
Sure.
I don't know.
Sounds good to me.
You'd spell it and you'd look her in the eyes and just try to guess, like, you look confident and fake it till you make it. And she's like, "Get out."
I think he
Yeah,
was hoping
yeah.
for as little dialogue as possible.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but it is very creepy. Anyone who will go alone to, say a wedding crasher, he could also be at a wedding, be like, "Yeah, I'm related to one of the people getting married. Like, you in the city for the weekend? Like, what are you guys doing tonight?" Like, that would be very creepy. Although,
That, you know what, that's more passable though.
because there's free liquor.
But like not a counselor's convention.
It is very weird. Yeah. And we didn't get the age difference. She didn't say how old this guy was. I'm picturing him as an older man, which is
Yeah.
creepy. But I'm also thinking if he's like 20, that's also super creepy. And he's probably now a serial killer somewhere.
Yeah, something there that you might have missed is that I showed my creepiness in trying to pass the first test once I was in the room that I could spell counselor. I was that much
Mm.
closer to get into the sheets. I was really invested there. Yeah,
You
I could
tried
see
to spell
myself
it.
in that situation.
Let's move on to another one. We got some good ones in this work-related creeps category. I gave you the choice last time, Madelayne. I'll let you pick, Jack. Do you want to hear a missed connection with a creep at a cancer clinic, or would you like to hear Tiffany's road rage story, except swap rage for creepiness?
I like the road rage story. That sounds good to me.
Okay, let's
Yeah,
do this.
a little different.
This is a good one. Do you get road rage?
I used to. I did, but I noticed that it was making my kids uncomfortable and my girl uncomfortable, and I had to
Mm.
mature from it. I live in one of the worst driving because most people live on the outskirts of the city, and they come into the city and they still think that they can get away with not using their turn signals and all that. And Winnipeg is really poorly mapped out, so yeah, no, but I've had to get over that. I want to keep my family feeling comfortable. Comfortable, yeah.
Okay, well let's get to it. Let's hear about Tiffany's road rage story, but swap rage for creepiness. Here it comes. Buckle up for this one.
Hi, Jordan and Madeline. My name is Tiffany. I am from Washington State, but at the time of this story, I was living in San Diego, California. But anyway, I love your Encounters with Creeps series especially, and I realized I've had quite a few encounters with creeps in my time. So in this one, I wanted to tell you about, I was driving home from my day job in San Diego and stuck in traffic at 5 p.m., typical. But it was a nice evening, and I had the windows rolled down, was feeling the breeze, listening to the music. And as an added detail at the time, I would never do this now, but at the time I thought it was smart to have, as marketing for my side business, I had a business proofreading transcripts for court reporters, like court transcripts. So I had a magnet on the back of my car showing my business contact info. So anyway, driving along, feeling the breeze, feeling good. And then I get this sensation that someone's looking at me. And I look to my right and I see a man with long, stringy hair and a lot of facial hair driving a flat black painted older GMC truck with like a camper that's attached to the top, like a really small one, older vehicle. And he's making these sexual gestures at me, like the fingers going in and out of the mouth, like sticking his tongue in, like I sorry for that, but it was so gross and disturbing, and I don't know if he thought I would be into that, but I was not at all. So I rolled my windows up, and like there wasn't much I could do in traffic, but I tried to kind of change lanes and like lose him as best I could because he was so creepy. And then I'm stopped at a light and I get a ding on my phone, and it's an email, and it's from him to my business email. And I wish I still had the email to read to you, but it was a poem addressing me kind of as if he knew me, talking about how lovely and beautiful I am and propositioning me to go out on a date with him or something, which I'm like, okay. It's one thing to make creepy faces at a girl in a car next to you. It's a whole another thing to do that and then email her. So, yeah, I was really creeped out, and I just, like I said, tried to drive as I could to kind of lose him. And I kept checking, and it seemed like he was following me at first, but then it kind of like, I felt like I lost him. I looked and I didn't see his car. So my next stop was a Trader Joe's grocery store. It's kind of like a small health food market. Did my shopping and I came out and I walked to my car and I look, and at the end of the parking lot is his vehicle. Like, this vehicle was not one you saw every day. It was striking, like the flat black home done paint job, and it was definitely the same car. And my stomach just dropped. I felt so freaked out. So I got in my car and called a cop, a female cop. She was really nice. And unfortunately, this was also on a weekend when my boyfriend was out of town and my roommates were out of town. So I was house sitting the whole house all alone. And yeah, so I had no one there with me. So I was terrified. But this cop told me, she's like, unfortunately, that was really creepy, but he didn't do anything particularly illegal. So there wasn't much she could do. But she did say she was going to drive around the parking lot of Trader Joe's and try to find him and give him a talking to, I guess. But anyway, yeah, so that was my first encounter with creep, and it thoroughly creeped me out. I for sure took that magnet off the back of my car. Never again. So yeah, thanks so much, guys. Thanks for all you do. Bye.
Where I come from, Cape Breton Island in Nova Scotia, the type of people who have like a truck that's been repainted with like spray paint cans, like a flat black, we'd call them rigs. And this guy sounds like a real rig with his long, stringy hair and his beard. She encountered like a demon on the roads.
If someone rolls their windows up after you've made eye contact, is that not like a sign enough?
Well, yeah, not for him, because he decided to then convert to like obscene hand gestures, which is I can kind of picture this cinematically, where she's like racing down the highway and he just keeps trying to get next to her to make these obscene gestures.
Truck.
You know, in his big yeah, there's just smoke everywhere. He's got the camper on the back he lives in, or keeps his bodies in.
Oh my god!
I'm just picturing. There's
dark.
many of those vehicles out at Craven.
What's Craven?
Do you know what? It's like a country music jamboree every year, and it's in a teeny little town called Craven, just outside of Regina. Okay. And Regina is the chlamydia capital of the world. And I'm pretty sure it's because of craving. It's just like a cesspool.
Okay.
And yeah, I've been once, just once.
Okay.
And yeah, there's like
Was
a
it
bunch of
awesome?
shitty. It was okay. I don't like country music. I just went to party. I was 18
Okay.
and I wasn't allowed to go until I graduated. Um, but yeah, like there's like campers there with like spray painted on the side, "Don't laugh, your daughters might be in here," and like things like that, or like the stabbing cabin.
Oh, I
So
hate
that's
Saskatchewan. I'm sorry.
Stabbing.
me too.
What do you think of this one,
Oh,
Jack?
man. Well, I think that, doing out the window, like Madelayne said, like that should be the sign that she's not interested. But I also think when it comes to a creep, that turns them on even more so.
Yeah, playing hard to
Like
get,
that's
is
part of
she?
it.
The chase.
and
Yeah.
for him to think to, he doesn't seem the type actually to see the email on her car and think to quickly pull out his phone. That surprised me.
I'm surprised he had a smartphone
Yeah.
and not like a flip
Yeah.
phone.
Well, it was probably all spelt wrong, and he did it with his voice. Like when you get an
Yeah.
email or a message from someone, and they did it with the voice thing, and it's always all screwed up.
Yep.
That's what I'm picturing.
Me too. Me too.
Oh, it doesn't end there. Let's get to our last work-related creep, and then we'll get to our last ad break. This story is going to be called "A Missed Connection with a Creep at a Cancer Clinic." Here it comes.
Hey there. So my encounter with a creep happened in my workplace. I worked for a cancer clinic, an outpatient clinic, and a colleague or a friend of mine, I don't recall who, sent me a link to a Craigslist ad, a missed connection ad, that described me to a T. I live in a small town, and so I was mortified that this was out there. Being that I work with the public in a healthcare capacity, it makes you quite vulnerable, especially when you're in a small community. And yes, I reached out to this person to ask him to please take the ad down. And he was, of course, delighted that it had gotten back to me and this was successful. He was shocked and did, to his credit, take it down. However, that didn't stop him from trying to pursue me romantically. I was young and naive at the time and maybe not as discerning as I could have been. So out of kindness, I communicated with him for a short while, not wanting it to affect his mom's care or there to be any drama in my workplace, trying not to upset this person. But eventually I did have to shut it down and say I wasn't interested in him romantically. And it would cause me panic when I would see her name coming up on our roster for the day, and I would avoid being present in the area where she would be treated or be in clinic. Anyhow, so when I did finally shut it down, of course, he reacted with contempt and anger and put me in a position where I had to shoulder the burden of his discomfort surrounding it, even though he was the one who pointed me out in my workplace. Anyhow, that is one of many of my encounters with creeps. Thank you so much for all you do, and keep these stories coming. It's a great platform for us to share anonymously. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Unless I missed it, was she involved in like treating this creep's mother's cancer?
I think so.
That's what I got from it.
Yeah.
And in the middle of that, you're in the hospital or a clinic or whatever with your mom who's getting treatment for cancer. You see a worker and you're like, oh man, I got to meet her, but I can't just go up and ask her for her number. I'm going to put something in the newspaper describing her and that I want to meet her.
It's insane.
Oh, that's not right.
It's just so weird and so inappropriate.
Those kind of missed connection listings, that is just like, it's a perfect setup for a creepy stalker kind of thing. I wonder if people ever actually started like a healthy relationship and maybe like married some guy or girl that they met through one of these missed connection posts. Like, I saw you on the bus, you had a beautiful ponytail that I sucked on and I still have the flavor of your hair in my mouth. Write me. I wonder if that ever turns into anything.
Like, I'm sure it has somewhere with someone, but like,
They're called dating sites these days, I think.
Yeah.
It
True.
happens all the time. Not that I'm
Yeah.
involved. I'm glad that I missed all of that. That,
Hell yeah.
that I don't have to deal with any of that. Imagine meeting somebody who has met so many other people beforehand, and
How would you compare? How could
right?
you stack up?
Can you look at the last lists of people that they've connected with? Can you see that kind of stuff? I wonder. I don't know. I don't know. I've never done it. But yeah, you can pose yourself these days on dating sites, from what I understand, as somebody that you're not, and then you show up at their door and see what happens. What a creepy world that is. That I'm again happy that I'll never have to be a part of.
Yeah. Madelayne, I know you work in a hospital and a lab. You don't directly involve yourself with patients, though, so maybe you've avoided this.
I really like my job for a few reasons, but no patient contact is the number one reason. I have worked with
Well, yeah.
patients before, like not super closely, which is nice, but in my position now, I don't talk to really anybody. It's
Yeah. And
fantastic.
this show is a great ad and promotion for like working a job where you don't have to be too close to people. Like think of the poor girl earlier at the salon.
Oh,
Like imagine your job is literally like rubbing strangers' necks in a non-sexual way. Like of course there's creeps out there that are gonna walk all
Yeah.
over you doing that.
yeah.
I think that your caller mentioned something really important there, though, too, and it was that she felt that she should be nice initially to keep it not being so awkward, and then eventually had to be hard on the guy and say, this is not going anywhere," and he responded by being difficult about the whole situation. I mean, if I don't have any daughters, but I always thought to myself, the first thing I'm going to teach them is to be very blunt about that if you are uncomfortable with
Yeah.
something, because that scares creeps off. It does. It's not what they're looking for. You can't give them any glint of hope, because once you do, they will
Mhm.
turn it into something much more, and they'll obsess. And then when you do finally put the gauntlet down to shut the door on them, they'll get angry. It's rough.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, like we said earlier, I think it was talking about Madelayne being in a bus stop. When you're like 19, you don't
Mhm.
have the confidence to really stand up for yourself and and be defensive. But like if you can embed that or infuse that or develop that
Yeah.
within your kid to like it's you don't feel right, you stand your ground, you do what you got to do. Like if you can get someone that confidence early, oh man, I've often said like confidence is like a superpower in this world, not just for protecting yourself, but I don't know if there's any job or any industry where being confident and kind of capable is like the superpower to get you, to a better position
sure.
than you're in. But and again, it works also with protecting yourself out in the wild from creeps.
No doubt.
Let's take a quick ad break. When we get back, we have a duo of stories that I promise you will remember when you lay down to go to sleep tonight. These will be the WTF creeps, and you know what that stands for.
What the frick?
Madelayne, I know you have about 150 cats. Jack, Luna, do you got any pets?
No, I got 2 kids. That's enough for me. I'm allergic to cats, first and foremost. Considering a dog recently, we'll see. I got no problem with it.
Okay. Same situation on my house. 2 kids is more than enough. I'm deathly allergic to cats, so they can't come in my house. I would love a dog. I know it's a huge commitment and a lot of work. I did try it out, though. I dog sat my mother's dog for, I think, 3 weeks, and it was actually awesome. But it was in the summer. And so going out at, midnight and just standing in front of my house for 15 minutes watching a dog try to use the bathroom, that's one thing when it's like 18 degrees. But we're recording this the 6th of February, and it's something between a snow and rainstorm outside right now. I wouldn't want to be out there with a dog. But
must be nice. It's like minus 40 here.
Same.
I don't know how people live out your way.
We're
I guess
miserable.
you got the same Manitoba, Saskatchewan. Like you guys got the kind of weather where people will often plug in their cars.
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh god.
Like a block heater, they call it.
I don't plug in my car. I don't need the whole like block heater, just like the pluggy any part doesn't work. But my car has never not started, and it is a 2007. This thing is a trooper.
So for like a lot of people are going to be listening to this from other parts of the world. Like a block heater is like something in your car near the engine, and you actually plug it into the wall overnight, and it just prevents like the engine from like freezing solid. Is that what it
No,
is?
what it does is it keeps the oil pan warm so that it will start up and it doesn't get all
Okay.
gummy in there. That's my understanding.
Okay. I will
I'm
say,
so glad you're here because
eh,
all I know is they get plugged in and then they start.
I will say this though, here in Nova Scotia, I've never once seen one of those. I've never heard of someone plugging in a car. I've never seen that, other than of course like an electric car. But I've never seen someone plug in a car overnight to prevent anything from freezing. So I guess that
Crazy.
speaks for how amazing it is here versus Western Canada.
Yeah, true.
But let's get into it. The reason I brought up dogs is because one of the more memorable stories of tonight's episode, I'm anticipating, is going to be called Timothy's Neighbor, the Creepiest Dog Owner Ever. Let's just jump right in.
Hello, this is Timothy from Arizona. This trigger warning, it has to do with animals, but my parents had a neighbor. I mean, he might still live there, I don't know, but next door neighbor that lived next to us for years. This guy, he was a single guy, lived by himself, and he would raise all these golden retrievers that he would adopt. We had like an agreement with him where we kept a key to his house and he kept a key to our house in case we ever needed it. I came home from school and I was locked out. So I went to his house because I knew I had a key to get in to get my key for my house. Well, I go in and his house is dirty, dark, dingy, like really disturbing. I couldn't find the key, so I found a light switch, turned it on, and there was like used condoms laying all over. I mean, several. And there are pictures, like 8x10s, all over the walls of his dogs, like in birthday hats, and him doing all this kind of like treating them like they're children. And I'm a dog lover. I have a dog, but I got out of there as fast as I possibly could. I just waited outside. I didn't even find the key to my house. And I don't know that he was doing something with the dogs. I don't want to think about it, whether or not. But real creep. And oh, his name was Rex. It's kind of a dog name, and all of his dogs were named like Samantha, David, Daniel. So we always thought that was kind of weird and funny. But yeah, total creep.
I don't think anything about that is weird or funny. The image of being in this dark, smoky, dusty, messy living room, used condoms. I can't. I don't even want to really picture how he knew just by looking at them that they were used. But there's used condoms, multiple everywhere, with the creepiest photo. The only thing creepier than a bunch of pictures of clowns would be dogs like with hats on.
Yeah, named Kevin and Stacy.
I don't know where to go with this one.
What self-respecting woman goes to a guy's house, sees a bunch of used condoms, even if they were used with her, and still sleeps with him?
Well, I don't think this guy had an active social, let alone sex life.
Right. So like there's more questions are coming about these condoms.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't think about that aspect of it.
And like there's nothing less sexy than dogs and party hats.
Or used condoms for that matter.
Or used condoms.
There's never should be a reason there's multiple used condoms, right? Like would there ever, like, unless something very antisocial is happening, there shouldn't be more than one used condom visible at any time. And and if there is, like, it should only be for a fraction of a second.
Yeah, it almost seems intentional.
Right.
It almost seems intentional because the neighbor knew that he might come into the house or that he was supposed to come into the house.
Well, he had they did like the key swap thing that you may do with a neighbor. Hopefully never with someone like this. But I don't think the neighbor, the dog lover guy, was expecting it. It just circumstance was that this young guy forgot his key, so he thought I can go in my neighbor's house and grab my key from the hook on the wall or whatever it was.
Right.
But yeah, that's
just in case though. Like just in case, don't leave the used condoms laying around with the dog photos.
Also, those poor dogs living in squalor.
Surrounded by like choking hazards.
Yeah. Like my cat eats balloons. So yeah. It's insane actually.
Well, I'd rather
sounds like a big vet bill.
Yeah. Pictures of your dogs on your walls. I don't think that's that weird, but why the hats? I'm picturing them like at like a birthday and he's just You think it would
Oh,
just be
Well,
your
maybe
dog happy on the lawn, maybe?
maybe he was trying to redo like the dogs playing poker type
right.
deal.
I was
You
thinking
know
that
that
a
really
little.
famous picture?
Mhm.
Yeah, I have a like a 500-piece puzzle of that picture. I don't think I'll ever put that puzzle back together again. Thinking of this
Just
story.
burn it.
We rarely have a creep's name in the episodes. I'll often like edit it out, but if it's this creepy dog story and your name is Rex, come on.
Yeah.
If he tries to sue me for slander, no court would convict me. They'd be like, "You have to use the
No,
name. It's Rex."
it's part of the story.
Yeah.
It's the cherry on top.
Um, okay, this will be our final story for the night. And this can go in so many directions. I didn't even know what to name it, but I settled upon Sydney's encounter with maybe a creep, maybe a ghost in rural Ontario. Got to pay attention for this one because it's got quite a few twists and turns.
Hi, I'm calling with a creep story. So, my name's Sydney. I grew up just outside of Toronto, kind of in the sticks, farmland kind of area. And my story happened when I think I was like 11 or 12. And my family had just gone out to dinner in our little tiny town. So tiny, there were like 3 like family businesses, 1 grocery store. So that kind of gives you an idea. And so we went to dinner, and for whatever reason, I'm 11 or 12, angsty teenage years. And I got into an argument with my parents at the restaurant. And I got up and I left, and it was maybe like a 5-minute walk from the restaurant to my house. Again, this is a really small town. It's dark outside. I'm storming down the street, and this girl comes out of nowhere. She came out from behind a house, and she kind of walks up to me, and she has her hands kind of out in front of her, and she like stops dead in front of me, and she just looks at me and she says, "That's a lot of blood." And I look at her hands, I look at her, she's not covered in blood or anything like that. But I'm 11, 12. It's really, really creepy. My dad had come back to make sure I was okay, because he obviously wasn't going to just leave his 11, 12-year-old walking down the street in the middle of the night. So he'd come back, and so he saw this happen. And this girl, she keeps walking, and then she disappears behind another house. And my dad drives down, and he's like, "What was that about?" And I'm like, "This girl just came out of nowhere and said, that's a lot of blood." It really, really freaked me out. So I hopped in the car with my dad. He drove us home, the 1-minute ride home. And it was freaked me out. Like, I thought about it, and I expected something to be said. Like, was there a murder or something that happened? But I never heard anything about it. Again, I never saw that girl again. And whenever I walked down the street, it was sort of on the way to school for me. So sometimes I would walk down that street, and like I never saw that girl again. Never heard anything about what might have happened to her. So yeah, that's my little encounter with creeps. I hope she's okay. But yeah, thank you guys so much. I love the podcast.
Something very eerie and unsettling about that. But I have a few theories. First one I'm going to present is, did maybe Sydney just happen upon someone during like maybe their first acid trip or something?
Yeah, could be.
This idea of like walking with your hands in front of you, just saying weird things. Like
Yeah.
this girl she encountered seemed to be doing her own thing, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean,
Hopefully it was that, or like just trying to be weird.
I don't think it's trying to be weird. I think to approach someone saying something like that with your hands, it stinks of either like maybe acid trip, maybe mental health kind of thing.
Yeah.
yeah. Or a
I don't
ghost. Or a
know.
ghost.
And that's why I pitch that, because it kind of sounds like a ghost story, right? You could very easily just add some background music and change the setup for that story, and you got a ghost story.
I could write a short story called "That's a Lot of Blood" on that story. That is a creepy story, man. I just never saw her again. Odd.
And again,
Well,
like this is a small town. She's
Yep.
the girl who saw this was 11. if it was another girl who came up, they would have went to the same school or knew some of the same
Right.
people. It shouldn't be the kind of place that you see someone and have this bizarre encounter and never see them again. Like, which I don't know. Could it
I
is
wonder if it was during the summer and it was like someone's visiting niece or something
True.
maybe, but
on acid.
that just seems. I think it's just as likely that it's a ghost. Do you, Madelayne? I don't think we've ever gotten into it. Do you believe in ghosts?
I do. I do believe in ghosts, but I've never had a paranormal experience.
That's sad. I'm kind of the same.
Yeah.
I believe in them. I really want to believe in them. I do. I want to so bad that I do, but I haven't had that like 1 in a million experience where I
I
saw
think it
something.
has to do with your aura and like you either have it or you don't. Because the people that I know that have had paranormal experiences, it's plural.
Okay, I think I'm too like cranky and jaded. Like a ghost would see me and they're like, "Fuck that guy! I'm not wasting my time with his bullshit."
Probably.
What about you, Jack? You spend a lot of time alone, late at night, thinking. You're like a thinker. You're the type of person that would be in touch with that world.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a ghost, but I'll tell you this quick story. So again, working at the group home, I was working one-to-one with a kid. He was 18 years old actually, but he looked like a kid. He was a little guy. He had something called oral facial digital syndrome, where his face was kind of, and he had a lung issue. So when it came to the end of my time with him, because he died, I spent a lot of time with him in the hospital, comforting him, and he didn't have parents around or anything. I explained my situation there. And late one night, we're in the ward where people are all dying. In fact, his roommate in that room had passed about 3 days previous to this experience that I had. So I fall asleep on the side of his bed because it's an overnight shift. It's around the witching hour, which makes this story sound a little suspect, but it was. It was around 3 o'clock in the morning. I fall asleep on the side of his bed right next to his leg there. And I wake up and the room's dark, but there's light coming in from the hallway outside, and I see a shadow leave the room. When the nurse came in, I told her about what I had seen, and I asked her straight up because we had gotten friendly and joked around quite a bit. I said, is it haunted up here? Because I just saw a shadow leave the room, and she said to me, it's very haunted. So possibly that, and I'll give you one more thing on that. When I went back to work at the group home, because I didn't have my employment in that way anymore, because the kid I was working one-to-one with had passed away, they put me on night shifts. And this kid who I was working with used to love to ring the doorbell. And when you'd open the door, he'd be there, and he'd do this thing where he would like be unable to contain himself with his glee of you opening the door and it's him there. So we would screw around with people all the time when I was working with him, and ring the doorbell, make them answer it, and he would get a kick out of it. It's again around 3 a.m. in the morning. I'm working a night shift and the doorbell rings. I'm the only one in the group home, 8 kids there. There's a student who sleeps downstairs to assist me if I need some additional help. And I go to open the door and I know already there's nobody there. And there was not. There was nobody there.
Okay, that's something.
Yeah, I think so.
Whoa. Yeah. I don't, I believe it. And I have I'm a real like logical, grounded person, I think. But I'm able to justify and accept the existence of supernatural or paranormal activity or ghosts on this grounds is that the only thing that really makes you alive, that makes you a living person, is this one little spark of electricity that's within your body that makes your heart keep beating and allows your whole system to work. Like there is electricity in your body that makes that happen. And when you die, like electricity doesn't like dissolve, it disperses.
Yes.
And so whatever that electricity is that allows your whole body to operate, when you die, that just goes somewhere. And that's you. Like your body is just like the machine that your soul or your spirit is using to do all this stuff. What you are is that little bit of electricity. So that's why I think that's why I think it's real.
Yeah.
And I think that Sydney saw a ghost, and that ghost that was saying that's a lot of blood. Maybe Sydney wasn't seeing what that ghost was seeing.
Right.
This is a ghost story, not a creep encounter.
Yeah, it freaks me out a bit.
See, I like that this story is creepy, but like not the usual. Like it's a creepy story, but not a creep, you know?
Yeah, it's one of
I
the
like how it's different.
It was one of the few creep encounters where people aren't trying to sleep with each other, or someone's not trying to sleep with the other one.
It's refreshing.
It is refreshing. I like the way it was posed too, that she didn't really try to push that it. She felt that it was the supernatural, and those are the most believable stories to me. And the reason why I tell that story I just told you in the way that I tell it is because I don't want to push it like I saw a ghost. I didn't, but this was what happened, and take from it what you will. And it seemed that she posed her story in that way as well. She left it for you to decide. I like that.
We often at the end of these episodes, Jack, we'll go back through all the creep encounters that we heard tonight and choose which one is the most memorable for us. I'll recap them here before we do it. We had the creep at the bus stop with the bonus creep on the subway. We had the hairdressers on Happy Ending. We had the missed connection at the cancer clinic. We had the counselor convention. We had the road rage, except you swap a rage with being a creep. We had the creepy dog owner, and we had the creep maybe ghost in rural Ontario. I'll go first. I think out of all of the stories, I want to say the ghost-ish one because it's most recent, but I think the one that I'm going to remember is going to be the dog owner. I don't think I will look at photographs of dogs the same ever again. And I will continue to be kind of creeped out by used condoms in public, but the dog pictures will change for me. Madelayne, what's your story of the night?
The one that's gonna like stick with me is the hairdressing massage unhappy ending. Because that's just like, what do you say? What do you do other than throw up?
Yeah, well, she took the rest of it. Yeah, and she said she had a $400 appointment. So I'm guessing that's like a dye and put in all this stuff in someone's hair. And she's like, I'm not doing it. Not after this guy did that. And even if that story didn't have the wet stuff on his pants after the massage, even if it was just him moaning in the chair, that's so creepy and uncomfortable.
So weird.
Yeah. How about you, Jack? What are you going to remember from this experience encountering creeps on Nighttime with us?
Well, I think it was you getting your hands washed for free in the mall. Honestly.
It's a good thing. You go to the food court to eat. We go eat at the mall a lot. There's a really nice big food court at the Halifax Shopping Center. I don't want to go in the public bathroom and wash my hands. I will go in Lush and get it done with themed soaps. Like they had a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collection. Of course, the Wicked movie collection is really big in the store right now. I stand by that.
You're not getting it done. You're doing it yourself.
Yeah. The most they do is they'll explain, like as I'm washing my own hands, they'll explain like, yeah, and if you put some of that in the bath, and so there's this awkward moment where they're trying to sell me a bath product, and I'm like, it's just so weird to talk about this.
Just wash my hands.
Just let me get out of here. But yeah, that was a memorable one. How about of the listener contributed stories?
Yeah. I felt the same way. I don't want to say the last one because we just heard it, although I do feel that one is sticking with me the most. They're all were very creepy. I've listened to some of your past episodes, and this one was chock full. I'm impressed.
Well, I ramped it up. I don't often get celebrities joining us here, Jack. So I rolled out the red carpet of creep stories for you.
Thank you. I really can't pick one. I got the stringy-haired guy in my head still. I mean, some of this stuff won't leave me for quite some time, but that's a lot of blood. You know what? I will stick with that one.
Okay.
Her saying that, and she said she was a teenager, but she was only 12 years old or whatever, and it stuck with her, and the way that she posed it, that one's sticking with me a bit for sure.
I want to thank you for joining us for this episode of Nighttime. A huge and sincere thanks goes to everyone who took their time to share their creep encounters with us. Your stories, again, serve as a great reminder to keep our eyes open and our wits about us. And to any other listeners out there who have a story to share, we're going to be doing more volumes in this series, and we'd love to feature your story. You can share it at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. If you got something to share, go to the site now. The voice recorder is really easy to use, and don't worry about any mistakes or misspeak, as I'll edit before it goes to air and make sure we all sound our best. We're excited to hear from you. Now, with that said, I'm going to start wrapping up this episode, but before I get there, I have a few more thanks to pass out. First, a big thanks to Jack and Madelayne for sharing an evening with me and with you, the listeners of Nighttime. A big thanks to the staff at Lush for allowing me to wash my hands in your store. Monty Datta, who contributes the music for this episode, and Linz from the Dystopian Simulation podcast, who provides our intro and outro voiceovers. And then lastly, but most importantly, a massive thank you goes out to each and every one of you listening to Nighttime, as without your interest and your support, this show would be as pointless as it would be impossible. On the topic of support, let me thank the newest subscribers to the premium feed. Hannah, Cindy, and Alyssa, we appreciate you. And for anyone else out there who'd like to support the show, you can do it in a variety of ways. First of all, a premium feed subscription costs just a couple dollars a month, and that money funds the creation of the show, but also gives you access to an ad-free 2-day early release with a back catalog of episodes. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you can go premium at nighttimepodcast.com/subscribe. And even if you don't want to go premium, you can still support the show by sharing this episode on social media and letting all your like-minded friends know why they should listen. If anyone out there has any story ideas, wants to give feedback on the show, or would like to submit a question or comment to be aired in an upcoming episode, you can do all that and more at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. I'm excited to hear from you. But until then, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let me know if you see anything weird.
The Nighttime Podcast is written, hosted, and produced by Jordan Bonaparte.